Turkey Friday, and it's NutBallCop. Welcome. Hello, Pam. Um, I have a few things to talk about. Let's talk about where we are on the calendar. It is one of the biggest shopping days of the year. Um, I explained before that us um, doing a boycott at the working class, upper professional level, that's kind of hard because we don't spend money on non-essential items like the top quintile does. So um, I don't see a big boycott happening today at all. Um, and I don't think the boycott is a way to really force these people into doing what we want. We need representation outside of the corporate socialist system that will provide a better answer than what's going on right now. But just kind of as a heads up, Turkey Friday is not the best day to buy a lot of things. Just be aware of that. There's a lot of non-optimal offers that are going to be available today and over the weekend and into Digital Monday. And I'll give you a real good example is if you're going to buy a big screen HD TV, new smart big screen, TV, wait for the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl prices are always better than Black Friday prices. So be patient, spend your money wisely, because, as we move forward, we're going to have to, be very careful. If you if you're not in the first quintile, um, you got to be very careful how you spend your money, because every cost of living is pretty dramatically high. And even with like cutting the tariffs on some stuff, like they did, including beef, we still have a calving problem. Okay, we have a back end supply chain problem. If we don't have enough calves, how the hell do you grow enough beef to get to the slaughterhouse to feed America? Okay. And when we had that big dip in the calves caused by hoof and mouth, or wherever the hell it was a little while back, that really put a dent in the supply chain. The prices are really high. So, don't overspend. Don't overspend on Black Friday or Digital Monday or Christmas coming up. Um, Remember, the holidays are not about the money spent. It's about spending time with your family and your friends and the people you care about. Okay. I had a great day yesterday. Thanksgiving by far is my favorite holiday. I'm not a really big Christmas guy. Um, Thanksgiving is just, since the 80s, it's, even when I was a kid, it was important because, I had my mom's family, the Quebecois, the French Canadians, did the whole big family thing, and the grandmothers and the aunts built, this huge buffet of food for us, every year. That was all very cool. But I guess the reason I like Thanksgiving so much now is the family, my immediate family now, that includes my wife's parents, my in-laws, who are two of the most super cool people in the universe. It was 1984. I was a single soldier in West Germany, and my now wife, who's just a friend of mine on base, we weren't dating or anything, we're just friends. She invites me over as a orphan, as a Thanksgiving orphan, over to her house because her mom put out a huge spread, and they always invited over like 8, 10 GIs that didn't have family or nowhere to go on Thanksgiving. And they served them a great meal, bunch of beer, some whiskey. It was a great party. Little did I know, because her dad was the command sergeant major at DISCOM. He was one of the Green Berets that were asked to leave the team at the Sergeant Major's Academy down in Texas back then, and they wanted him to go back to regular units because the brigadier general who was studying the light infantry and units, the rapid deployment forces, he just didn't think they were ready, and they needed some senior leadership. So that's why they wanted the Green Berets, who were making command sergeant major, they wanted them to go back to the regular units. And so that's how we got my father-in-law, the command sergeant major, in 8th ID in Germany. So they invited me for Thanksgiving dinner, and I showed up. Again, we were just friends. I was just making a joke. I showed up, and the command sergeant major and his wife Barbara are sitting there, and I walk in and I go, "Hi, Mom." "Hi, Dad." Not knowing that, 40 plus years later, we'd still be having Thanksgiving dinner with each other. So Yeah, yesterday was nice. They came down. We cooked dinner. I was in charge of cooking the turkey and carving and tenting the turkey so I could rest. And my wife and my mother-in-law went crazy with all the side dishes. It was delicious. So I hope you had a good day. Um, Oh, and also, if you can, if you have some extra dollars and it's not a struggle for you, give a little money to your local food bank. That's one thing my wife and I make sure we do every Thanksgiving and Christmas is make sure the food banks get some money. We can put out a big spread pretty easy here for our family, so we got to make sure that others get helped. You know, they deserve a good holiday too. So I hope you had a good day. I did. Um, yeah, this tragedy in Washington D.C. Whew, that's not good. It's not good that idiot politicians think dumping a bunch of troops in the street or dumping a bunch of DEA agents in a city park is law enforcement. Because it's not. It's not. Okay. Now everybody's up in arms that it's an Afghan guy, came over in the refugee program, worked with the CIA in a zero program. Um, I think there's just the same possibility that it could have been a white boy that shot him, but we're going to freak out because it wasn't. Now, the thing that bugs me is 200 people get shot and at least injured, if not killed, every single day. That's the average number. I looked it up on every town, on Sandy Hook's site, on DOJ. I looked it up, verified the numbers several spots today. Over 200 people a day get shot in America. Okay. We're going to shut down global immigration because a National Guard trooper died. That's the only action we're going to take when we know we sell mental cases, criminals, terrorists, goombas and idiots and incels, not just a 22 rifle or a 410 22 over and under. We sell them military grade field weapons. Okay. And we're all supposed to be in a panic. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel horrible about this gal passing away last night. My command sergeant Major Fowler and I were sitting there having a cocktail after dinner. While he was having a coffee, he had to drive, so he didn't have a cocktail. I was having a cocktail, and the news popped up on my phone, and we talked about it, and we were both saddened by it. I mean, it's not good. It's not a good situation at all. But what? Why do we always flip out when it's something they think that's in their circle? Okay, again, 200 people a day get dropped by gunfire in America, many of them children. But I have to lose my shit because Charles Kirk got shot? And even I said in my prior video, that was horrible. The whole fact that ended up in the internet, that bleeding artillery wound, it was horrible. I mean, I've seen people shot and stabbed before. And I'm telling you, that was bad. Okay. Um, it's always horrible when we have gun violence. But why do you only freak out when you think you have a political advantage calling out one incident out of 200 in a day? I mean, how the hell does that make any sense? Okay. Oh, and what is, all the con artists, edgelords doing, and all the right wing podcasters who are so much more a patriot than you? Are they calling this National Guard trooper a cosplaying paid actor? Oh, not this time, huh? Just when kids get shot at school. Only the kids shot at school or the gay people at the bar in Florida, they're the paid crisis actors, not Charles Kirk. Not I'm pretty sure Kirk's assassination was leaked by design. Not sure where you're going with that. If you're talking about the video leaking, the video was just a social media post. I grabbed it right off of TikTok and Instagram. Okay, I actually have the MP3 file of it. Okay, that was a mobile phone picture. The girl who took the video because she was fanboying Kirk, she posted it. I mean, I don't think that's that much of a mystery, is it? If it is, I'm missing something. Let me know. Um, so as a result of this very specific gun violence they're mad about, the 1/200 of the gun violence they're completely losing their shit over, it is going to result in a global immigration ban to America. And that's the problem. Okay. You don't address the fact that you have people taking their mom's rifle and ending up a child soldier in a riot like Kyle Rittenhouse. That didn't bother you. Okay. It didn't bother you when they shot up a nightclub and including shooting a deputy sheriff in the head. Luckily, his Kevlar helmet took the bullet. I'm sure it rang his frickin' bell, but yeah, he got hit in the head. Okay. There's certain instances, even when the cops get shot, you don't give a shit whatsoever. This incident is going to result in a global immigration ban that's going to hurt. Uh, Normally, it's just going to hurt the economy because we don't have enough domestic talent nor enough of domestic professional replacement rate to fill all the jobs. Okay. And then you take things like nursing, which is a heavy immigrant profession. And then you tell nurses of all grades, all the way up to nurse practitioner, PhDs, they're no longer professionals. How the hell a PhD in nursing is not a professional? What are you serious? Okay, an RN is a professional. Okay, but when you took those professional designations off of them at the Department of Education and Department of Labor, you took away their ability to take out student loans. So you're going to block the immigration coming in to fill the nursing jobs. Then you're going to literally abolish the next generation of nurses coming up through nursing school. Do you understand the nursing shortage we're about to have? This is from learning vocational nurses all the way up to nurse practitioners and physician assistants. Okay. I love me my NPs and my PAs. Okay. Again, Army veteran. Okay. When you're in lower enlisted, you see a lot of the PAs and a lot of the NPs, and they always took great care of us. Okay, I was just on the hospital. I told you guys that I had surgery, closed my abdominal, my abdomen back up from the accident. And one of the doctors who took care of me was a PA. Love the guy, really nice, super knowledgeable. Uh, really seemed to be focusing on the trauma I was going through post surgery. He was great. Okay, why would you ever tell me or tell anybody that nursing is not a profession? The only thing that's a professional is an MD or above? Bullshit. That's just bullshit. This is their healthcare reform, by the way. I put this on notes the other day. This is their healthcare reform to destroy the professions within the medical industry while they charge you for medical policies you can't afford while not covering your treatment from the expensive policies they just sold you. That's their healthcare reform. It's like a comic book where you get the hero and the anti-hero. They're anti-heroing healthcare. I'm going to burn down healthcare so we can save money. See how much money you guys wasted on healthcare? See how much money you guys gave the insurance company? My solution is to burn the goddamn thing to the ground. Okay. Now, I'm sure if you're a rich sports athlete or a billionaire, your doctor's not going away. And I'll say this again for the 10th time. The first hospitals that are going away are in poor, red, rural districts in red states. Arkansas, are you ready to have no hospitals except for the ones in your city? Literally no hospitals, no clinics, not abortion clinics. I'm talking about just general medical neighborhood clinics. You're not going to have any. We're literally ripping that money out. Now you're telling nurses that are not a profession, so they can't get finance for their education. Now you're going to use the troops getting shot as a reason for a global immigration ban. Okay. Medicine is in trouble. Like healthcare as a business, as a service, as a capacity of our society is in total trouble right now. Okay. And it's not going to be the only thing. We're going to destroy our own ability to complete research. Okay. We are going to fall behind even further, fall behind the Chinese, their mortal enemy. Oh, we're 10 seconds away from war. Go listen to a dozen different channels, including Ryan Macbeth here on Substack and over on YouTube. Okay. We are always 10 seconds from war from China. Since Bill Clinton to now, we're 10 seconds away from being in China. Then why are we surrendering to China before the battle even starts? Because we are. We are economically, based on research and forward technology. China is kicking our fucking ass. What is the Trumpianism solution? Burn it all down to the ground. Sell a meme coin. Okay. Never mind the immigration ban will directly result in workers deciding not to come in America, our GDP falling, and other countries' research capacity and their GDP increasing. They're not going to come to America. They're going to go to Mexico for business. They're going to go to Canada. Are they going to do their postdoc in America? No. They're going to do it in Germany and England, in Italy, like at Trento. Okay. They're not going to come here and do it. Okay. All that forward innovations are academic and research capacity puts out year after year after year, and it's been doing so since World War II. They're about to sink that ship. Why? Because the president is xenophobic and racist. His advisors are xenophobic and racist. If the two guys got shot by a white dude wearing a Trump t-shirt and a red hat, thoughts and prayers. We know the gig. They've been doing to us for decades now. Okay. They only get pissed at the shooting they want to take political advantage of. Afghan equals xenophobia equals global immigration ban. Close the borders. What has he wanted to do since his first term? Close the borders. Okay. Because his response was insane. I don't know if you saw the presser. Reporter asked a completely straightforward. Any president would have been asked this question after an incident like this. So, what are we going to do about, revetting and making sure that the people that were admitted under the Trump administration, under Pam Bondi's DOJ, making sure they're safe and we don't repeat this incident? Calls you stupid 3 times. Seems like a normal press junket question. Nothing should be surprising there. Nothing. Stupid, 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 stupid. Yeah, that's one of the rich families. And that's not the worst thing about that woman McMahon from Linda McMahon from WWE. She's actually involved in a huge sexual abuse, um, grooming, involving like ring assistants or rookies in the league or whatever. I forgot the whole details of that. Yeah, so follow the money. Yeah, this is a basically valid statement. They want to. They've been driving nurse and doctors' pays, especially at the emergency rooms, at the public emergency rooms. They've been driving their pay into the dirt for years. Okay, so taking away their profession, yes, it has another possible outcome, and I think a very likely outcome is they want registered nurses, LVNs, what's the other one, CNEs. They want them, or CNAs. They want them to earn minimum wage. Minimum wage, no benefits. Why? So the private equity company that owns the emergency room can make more money. Okay. They're de-investing in America. They're surrendering to China. Also, they can make a better quarter next quarter. These guys are so short-sighted. Um, And I used to work at a national lab, um, physics lab, part of the high energy physics collective in the United States and abroad. That's Stanford Linear Accelerator Center, Berkeley Labs, Livermore, Brookhaven, Los Alamos, heavy iron lab in Germany, CERN on the French-Swiss border, a couple of universities in Britain. It's a big chain of everything, and we're just one in that big system of physics labs. Um, or my, the lab worked on global talent. Okay, all labs work based on global talent. Okay, we had a Italian postdoc who's now one of the best network instructors, professors in Europe, and she's a leading mind in network physics. Yeah, she used to work in our group. Okay. We had our chief security officer who is basically, assembly programmer back from the mainframe days. He understood more about compute than everybody else combined in the building. Okay. It didn't matter whether our talent came from Rome, Italy, or Buffalo, New York, or Tokyo, Japan. When you applied at the lab, we needed the specialized skills that would help the lab run. Where you're from isn't an issue. Okay. And literally, just like on my floor, the 40, 45 people that worked on my floor in the central computing services, there was easily 20 countries represented. Every one of your think tanks, every one of your international businesses all rely on global talent. Okay. We're not just talking like Google or Microsoft. Ford requires global talent. Ford Motor Company. Okay. Are you an international food producer? Do you ship your food products overseas? You need global talent. Okay. That's the way business works in America. That's the way business works around the globe. Okay. And it was a big deal at the lab to get the best minds in. Like, people got psyched when a really good researcher landed a position on one of the big projects going on at the lab. It's always a good thing. And if they're going to cut that off, yeah, we're already losing to China. Okay. We're losing to most of the industrialized world. Like, most of the big modern things that are happening in the world, very few of them are coming out of our research right now. Like chips. The latest advances chips is the sub 3 nanometer chip technology. That's Belgium. The chip fab, the extreme UV carving technology, the etching technology. Okay. That's the Netherlands. Chip manufacturing, that's Taiwan. High-speed trains, that's South Korea, Japan, China, not us. Okay. We're falling behind because we have a bunch of corrupt Goombas led by a guy who's stuck in the Mad Men era of the U.S. economy, in U.S. society too. And it's having an impact. Like, the whole Trumpianism as a thing is having a massive, massive impact on the people in Trump's orbit. Like, I've watched a couple of clips from a couple of the comedy shows and a couple of the news channels on YouTube, and I'm noticing something. Like, remember, I used to interrogate and interview people for the Army. Okay. This is what really pisses me. My daughter's like 30 now, but I'm sure it still pisses her off. When she was a teenager, she couldn't lie at all. Because her body language and her facial expressions and her speaking patterns all gave her away instantly. Okay. She's not the world's worst liar, but she ain't good at it either. Okay. These people are getting on the news carrying the water for dear leader porn star Humper, and it's killing them inside. And you can see it. You can see it in their body language. You can see it in their facial expressions. Like, why are all you cabinet secretaries smiling like Wednesday from Addams Family? And then the forced fake laughs. Oh, they just don't understand what working people want. I'm like, wow, that was forced. Um, they're fake. They're so fake when they're on the TV, and they're coming in. Oh, I champion this policy 10,000 times over. The shitty policy. Okay. And they all have to get on their knees and fall to the ground and literally bow down. Oh my God, I can't believe how great this policy is. Like seizing parts of Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA in the true Stalinist tradition of communism. Okay. Then turning around and saying you want 25% of the Alaska Mining Trust. Why? Because his pockets are big. And he just lost $5 billion in his media company. He's got to replace that thing because it's all a rat race to these guys. He doesn't care how he gets the money. Okay. But they get on these hardcore corporatist far right wingers. Okay. Every child in America could die of typhoid. They don't give a shit as long as the stock market goes up. Okay. No, that's immoral. Okay. But these guys, every other day of the week, are scolding people, wagging their finger at people on talk shows and on A-block interviews. Oh, you little fucking little socialist, you little communist. And what do they pull? A total dick communist move. Seizing fucking corporate private companies' fucking assets and value. Companies that didn't do what the banks did, by the way. That's their new excuse, and that's their Bernie bro excuse now. That's a little disappointing from the Bernie side of things. I think Bernie has a good heart, sometimes a bad vector. But now all the Bernie bros are like, oh my God, it was such a good thing to do because that's what we did with the banks. Okay, the banks should have been arrested and liquidated. We shouldn't have bailed them out and gave them a get out of jail free card, you fucking morons. Okay, the bank bailouts is part of the reason why your inflation has been so bad since the bank bailouts. Okay, you financialized everything, broke the system, then gave trillions of dollars to the financial criminals who broke everything. And then you think you're good because you took a portion of the company, because that was your big out from actually prosecuting these guys for millions of felonies they committed. This dumb. This dumb. We should not be, if this whole thing where you have to take a stake in the tech companies. Oh, thank you, Terry. We have to take a stake of the tech industry. You got that ass backwards. Intel, AMD, NVIDIA should be building that shit with private credit from the hedge funds and private equity. The government should not even be involved. The only government that should be involved is the cities and the counties in the local regulations, sewage, electrical, water, that sort of shit. Oh, and by the way, we put most of the chip fabs at the bottom of the Colorado River in Arizona, where there's what? No water. What is the biggest thing you need to make chips? Water. Water's more important than power in chip manufacturing. Okay. But you see this, they tell you, oh yeah, this thing that Trump just did, that's exactly against everything the GOP has talked about since Reagan. Now that Trump has done it, he's a hero. He should go on Mount Rushmore. Goff. You handed corporate welfare through the corporate socialist system to chip companies because they refused to do what they needed to do to make sure America could survive a kerfuffle in Asia and chips being knocked offline, chip manufacturing over there being knocked offline. Okay. And it's specific chips we need. Okay. We already make the big chips, the stuff, above 7, 8 nanometers, we already make that shit. Okay. The stuff we're building the new plants for, Ohio, Oklahoma, Arizona, I think there's one other too, Mexico maybe. That's for the super chips. That's for the really tiny transistors, the 3 nanometer and below. But we're building things which we need. We need those type of chips, those 3 and 2 nanometer chips. Those are the ones that go into my RTX 59D GPU, my best of class, video card, graphics processing unit. That's the kind of transistors that go into high end gear like that, or my new high end i9 285 in my Monster workstation. That's with that Monster GPU. It's a huge box. But we're already a generation behind. We're going to open up those chip fabs, and they're going to be a generation behind the day they open up the doors, because Belgium's already figured out how to get another order of magnitude smaller already. There's a company in Belgium called AMEC. Okay. It's a big public private ownership university conglomerate, co-op, however you want to form it, or describe the form. Yeah, they've been putting everything into pure research, and they figured out how to get from 2 nanometers to 0.2 nanometers. Yeah. So we're competing on a global stage. We have to compete every single fucking day, or we're dead in the water. So yes, we should be building those plants, those chip plants, but Intel and AMD and NVIDIA should be the ones paying for it, or private equity should be funding it. Because look what happened with I think it's Meta's new no, it's not Meta's, it's X, Musk's abortion. Their new data center, they built the whole thing out, signed over ownership to a capital firm, Gold Owl Financing or Hedge, or whatever that company is, oil finance something. And now they're renting it back. So they don't have to show the $250 million hole they just put in their budget on the books. It's just a rental fee on the books, even though they already spent the money. Okay. They're just partitioning that money month to month as an MRC, a monthly recurring cost. Okay. That's how everything's done in the data center. It's monthly recurring costs. Okay. If you don't know your MRC provision down each one of your services in the data center, you're screwed. Yeah. I'm an SME in data center ops. So we need to compete. We need immigration. We need the investment, but we also need the leadership that gives us the right stuff at the right time. And Trumpianism is not offering us anything like that. Anything. Oh God! Because they've taken corporate socialism, and which was bad enough. It was pigs at the trough. It's the best way to describe corporate socialism. They rig their own system, and then the money just comes down the trough. They just take what they want. They're not profiting from their operations. They're profiteering from their operations. Okay, profits is capitalism. Profiteering is corporate socialism. Okay, especially when you add the fact that the corporate socialists don't pay any fucking taxes. You and I pay taxes. Corporate socialists do not. Okay, all sorts of ways they don't pay taxes, like the step up. If you do a revocable living trust and you hand all your stocks to your kids or your grandkids, they get a step up when you die. You bought the stock for $2. Okay. You were the miracle investor. You bought NVIDIA when it was $2. Well, it's now hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars a share. What, $6.60 a share? I think it is, something like that. Okay. When your kids get transferred or your grandkids get transferred the stocks under a revocable trust, the capital gains resets to the current price. They pay no taxes on what their parents or grandparents made for money and hand it to them. They pay zero taxes. Zero. Okay? That's the problem with corporate socialism. That's the problem with concentration of wealth in this country. The concentration of wealth is not capitalism. Capitalism has a simple definition. And so does socialism. Socialism is the government seizing the means of production. Boom, done. Okay. I don't want socialism. I want a kick-ass social safety net like Denmark or Germany. And I was talking to my German grandmother. She born in Berlin. Okay. She's German. My wife's German, even though she's an American citizen born at Fort Knox, Kentucky, on a military base. She spent her whole life in Germany until she went to college, you know. So a German with an American passport. That's what I call my wife. But I was talking to my mom. I go, nobody walks around Germany going, God damn, I wish I had some more of that socialism. Nobody says that in Germany. And they have a kick ass social safety net. Nobody goes bankrupt from health bills. No tourists, no visitors go bankrupt from health bills. My mother-in-law had a medical problem, I think a couple of years ago after the lockdown. She went over there to see her brother and family. And she got sick, had to go to the hospital, and she ended up spending like 5 days, 6 days in the hospital. She was charged an administrative fee to pay for the clerk to go submit the bills to the government because it's already paid for by their taxes. So I think they charged her the equivalent of like $350 for six days of serious hospital care. She was quite ill. Okay, nobody goes bankrupt there. That's what I'm talking about in a social safety net. I'm not talking about seizing the means of production. Can you imagine we let Trump do that? Holy shit. We'd all be dead by Thursday. Oh. I wanted to recommend a reading, especially if you kind of don't read across the spectrum of news sources, because people do tend to bucket themselves. Try not to pigeonhole yourself. That's not good. I think that's one of the small advantages of ground news. The only thing with ground news is, why is every liberal service very liberal? They're wire services. They're just telling you what happened. Some of the wire services don't even have opinion pages. But that aside, yeah, don't bucket. I understand that's behavior. Don't pigeonhole yourself. But to get out of that bucket, or to get out of your pigeonholing, um, get on the mailing list, especially if you identify yourself as a small L or big L liberal, or a big progressive. Um, you don't know who your friend is right now, and that friend, believe it or not, big C conservative, big L libertarian, Cato Institute. It's tearing Trumpianism to shreds. Okay. The biggest legit force against the mass deportation is the chief immigration lawyer at Cato right now. He wrote a whole paper and followed up with 6 essays. I read every one of them. Okay. We do not have a legal immigration system in America anymore. We have a rich immigration system for the corporations who want talent, the ranchers who want cheap labor, and the rich people who want to import their other family members. Remember, they hated chain migration? Chain migration is the favorite way for a wealthy family to bring in other family members. Still to this week. Okay. Highly recommend you read, just Google it, Cato Institute Immigration Study. It's quite lengthy. I'd pour a glass of wine, or you make a cup of hot tea, whatever your favorite beverage is. Okay. And I'd sit down and I'd read that. Okay. There's hard truths about what's going on here. Okay. Immigration exists for the companies willing to bribe Congress to get what they want. We do not have an immigration system per se. We have a bid lotto by wealthy families and wealthier corporations who literally pick and choose who the immigrants are and who they aren't. Yes, the government has a role. The federal government has a role in security screening immigrants and refugees, asylum seekers. Yeah, yeah, totally. Germany does it. Denmark does it. England does it. Japan does it. Australia. They all check people if we don't know who you are. We're gonna take a good look at you. Okay, and if we're suspicious, we may even give you an ankle bracelet for a little while. We want to make sure we know where you are. Okay, that's rare, but yeah, that can happen. But we don't. All the other things that's supposed to be our immigration process, they're being destroyed. And they were what was majority left of the immigration system? Because remember, Reagan and the Bush family were pro-immigration. You know, remember HW, Daddy Bush, going off at the lectern about people being nutty and racist because we need the damn labor? And that's still true today in 2025. We need the labor, you idiots. You want to be a capitalist? You need the labor. Unless you're going to start seizing the means of production and the control of labor. Are we not going to have the voluntary distribution of labor anymore under capitalism? We're going to be assigned jobs out of high school by Stephen Miller and the DHS and the ICE homeboys, the Goombas. That system kind of sounds sucky, doesn't it? Okay? Because when there's no brown people to pick the lettuce and the strawberries and the melons, who the fuck do you think is going to pick it? We're going to let $10 billion, $20 billion of crops to rot in the field? Are you that foolish? Those crops are going to get picked. You won't like who's going to pick them when there's no more brown people around earning minimum wage. And they bust their ass. I used to live in Salinas, California. Okay? Every day I drove to work, I drove by the fields. Saw the workers every single day. These are some of the hardest working people in America. Okay. And no, I lived and worked, wore a blue uniform in one of the most immigrant, if not the most immigrant heavy county per capita in the United States of America. No, immigrants do not do what Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon have concocted. There's no data to support that. And my experience doesn't support that. I've told you all about the Nicaraguan kids that worked in the kitchens down at the wharf or, you know, cleaned offices at night. A lot of the guys, they usually worked in the kitchen. The gals, they usually cleaned offices at night. That community committed almost no crime. I mean, near zero. Okay. The Italian boys with grandparents who've always lived in the town I worked, oh, they got into trouble constantly. That one kid, rich grandparents gave him a lot of money. He knew how to waste it, including within 6 months, wrapping a BMW sedan, a BMW motorcycle, and then a Mustang around telephone poles. All DUI. Never met a Nicaraguan kid in that town that did the same thing. Sorry. Your mantras are bullshit. Your hate mantras don't mean anything in the real world. That's not the problem. Okay. But yeah, it's a serious suggestion. Go look up Google Cato, read that immigration report, follow the immigration lawyers on Blue Sky. Okay, go look them up. Listen to what this guy's telling you. He is a capital C conservative and a hardcore libertarian. He's telling you the administration is full of shit. In fact, the last few administrations, including the Democratic administrations, have been full of shit when it came to immigration. Immigration's been fucked up for 20 years. Okay, now it's affecting the economy. Now you let Trump in the door for the second time, and he's going to burn down the immigration system, burn it to the ground over what happened in D.C. Okay, that doesn't hurt those third world countries he's so concerned about. That hurts America. Okay. Last startup I was in, IoT startup, Internet of Things, sensors, remote controlling power generators and power transfer switches, being able to manage and test them remotely over the internet. Our summer intern for 2 summers was a robotics student, and he's originally from Venezuela. And I'm glad he's here. Yeah. We need more smart Venezuelan kids like this one. That kid's a smart cookie. And I asked him over beers at the brewery down the South Bay one time. I was like, so how'd you end up here? How'd you end up in the South Bay? Central Coast. And he's like, do you know how bad it is in Venezuela? And I just started laughing. It was a nervous laughter. And I go, actually, I don't. Why did you tell me? So he told us, yeah, it's that bad. Okay. He made a semi joke. He goes, imagine a college football riot after a championship. Like, most nights of the week. He goes, that's Venezuela. I'm like, oh my God. And he goes, there's no account of it. Like, we're missing stuff. Like, I still get emails and texts from my relatives that are still down there, and they go, they're just missing things. Like, there's no MRIs in the country. They've several times ran out of baby food. Not had shortages like we had because of manufacturing problems and contaminants and whatever. They didn't have any. The Colombian military police stood at the border and let the Venezuelan moms come into Colombia. They gave them day visas and let them come in and get formula and diapers and medicine and go to the pediatrician or the OBGYN in the border cities in Colombia, because that's how fucked up Venezuela is. Okay. Oh, and by the way, Venezuela is not a military threat to us. The problem is what is going to be the military threat that's going to be in Venezuela is the insurgency that we're going to fight, just like Iraq, after we spend, like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks just pushing the Venezuelan military aside. Our problem is the mass zombie problem. The same thing in Baghdad. Okay. Doesn't matter how much technology and how many chain guns and how many puffs you have in the air and how many predator drones you have. When enough zombies show up to the scene against you, you're going to get overwhelmed. We're heading there again. So, yeah. So immigration, Cato, get on it, read it. I think even if you're not on that side of the spectrum, you're going to find that information highly supportive of what you need to argue to have a fairer, better immigration system. Okay. I'm about as pro-immigrant as you get. My grandfather came over from Ireland. My mother-in-law came over from Germany. All my friends in the tech industry are from all over the world. Okay. One of my mates I work really close to, he's from Australia. Okay. My other close mate, he's from Toronto, Canada. Okay. It's just the way the world works. Okay. And being a xenophobe just harms the economy. So read up, get your knowledge up, argue from a strong point of informed data. And the data is all in that report in the follow-up essays from the Cato immigration lawyer. Oh, and by the way, Cato is making and I am going to take a swipe at the lefties here for a second. Sometimes you deserve a quick jab. Listen to what Cato's arguing here, because they're doing what Ted Olson, the libertarian lawyer who got Oberfeld through, the same-sex marriage, gay marriage. I just call it contract. If you're an adult and you want to sign a contract and you want to live with somebody and share all your stuff with them, that's an adult choice. The government has no fucking say in that. Fuck off. Okay. And your stupid arguments that you bought from the conservatives, yeah, the rubes. Well, if two guys can marry, then you could marry a golden retriever. No, you can't marry a golden retriever for the same reason you can't marry a human child. Neither the golden retriever or the human child can legally sign a contract. All marriage is a contract. You have problems with that contract and the way the government has to interact with that, get government out of the business of marriage. Your problem is solved. But anyways, Ted Olson, the libertarian lawyer, he followed up the 6 liberal lawyers who fell flat in the federal courts. They just floundered. Their arguments were about hippie love, flowers, and rainbows. It wasn't about federalism. Ted Olson went up there with like, hey, how about we do, federalism, the 14th Amendment, and while we're at it, let's read some Locke and Hamilton. Okay? Boom, you got Oberfeld. Okay? Just because there's an attorney out there representing you, you've got, and you're on the right side of the issue. Okay? Because I'm thinking a lot of people listening to me right now, we're all pretty pro-immigration. We're not xenophobes, okay? But you can argue your immigration case wrong. And unfortunately, a lot of liberals are arguing it wrong, just like they were arguing it wrong under same-sex marriage, okay? Get to the point of law under the federal system we operate in, and then shove the nonsense up the theocratics' butts and tell them to shut up. That's what Olson did. That's what Cato's doing right now. Tell the theocratic nationalists to shut the fuck up. All their arguments are invalid. They're invalid on the moral, the ethical, the legal, and the constitutional level. Okay? Don't buy bad arguments. Buy the informed arguments. Okay? We have a, going on to the next topic. We have a massive judiciary problem right now. It's starting to look like SOTUS against the world, the Supreme Court of the United States of America against the planet. Yeah, they're losing touch with reality. That's not my opinion. I read Political this morning. 220 judges rule against just mass deportation questions. Okay, when you start taking all the big questions where we're all looking at this regime and going, you're all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, they're losing hand over fist at the district court level. And remember, the district court level is the only level that you can find a fact. Okay, you can't find a fact at the appellate court or the Supreme Court. That's not their job. The district court tells you that's true, that's false. That's supported by data. You have your head up your ass and you're talking bullshit. Okay, that's the district court judge's job. Okay, the district judges are calling bullshit. They call bullshit 220 of them called bullshit multiples of their 220 count. Okay, they are writing opinions where they are literally disemboweling this mass deportation, anti-immigration bullshit. The federal district courts are on one page. The Supreme Court's on a totally different page. And now some of the district judges, one resigned so he could speak. Okay? What you all are doing is literally destroying the rule of law. You're literally taking partisan ideology and telling us that's the Constitution. That's ethic and the law and the rule of law. Horseshit. Horseshit. They are going to court, lying their frickin' asses off, literally signing fake affidavits. Or what Halligan did to James Comey. She literally made up an alternative indictment and had the four-person sign it without ever showing it to the grand jury. Okay? We need a federal public misconduct law. Because if Lindsay Halligan would have done that in a lot of states, including states like Texas and Florida, she could be up on public misconduct charges, felonies, for being so egregious outside her role and responsibility. But the judges aren't buying it. The judges aren't buying Trumpianism. SOTUS is. Up to this point, they have been. Now, where it's going to get really, really, really interesting, the tariff decision comes out at the end of this session. What's that? Early May? The way I heard some of the audio tapes, including the questioning by Gorsh, it's not good when a Supreme Court justice has to ask you 3 times to stop being a fucking idiot in the Supreme Court. Okay? Because they would not affirm to Gorsh that what the tariffs are is a revenue-raising scheme. Okay? Something Trump, Miller, Bannon, and 20 members of Congress have said to, have commented to, spoken to in public interviews. The Solicitor General's going, no, the point isn't to raise revenue. And Gorsh was like, I'm sorry, do we not understand the definition of revenue? Is that too hard of a word? Because I can totally sit there, like sitting here, really? Really, Solicitor General? That's your answer? It did not go well for the Solicitor General. I think they're going to get their ass handed to them on the tariffs. It's going to go 7-2. The whole tariff, the whole taco bullshit, the Supreme Court's going to stop it, which is great. I couldn't, because I expected something completely different. I'm a wonk. I actually sit down and just don't read the news articles. I go find the source transcripts and the audio and I listen to it. Even though I'm not a lawyer, I love listening to the question and answer period at SOTUS, because that not all of that may end up in the decision, but the heart and soul of the thinking of how you got there, that's what happens in the oral arguments. And it's really fascinating. And it wasn't just Gorish not buying it. I think the only ones that were entertaining it at any level were the two sellouts, the two bribery suspects, Thomas and Alito. Nobody else was like, I mean, some people were less harsh than Gorish, but he was, they're all, we're just going like, no. So it's going to be a blowout, and it's going to align with the lower courts. Um, is this the sign of things to come? I hope so. Because, like I said, the district court thinking, and the district courts have to read the law. They can't make up the law. They know the appellate court will tear them up. Okay. They have to take the current living law, the statute, the court decision, the appellate court decisions. They have to put that all together, and they have to come up with a very cogent, very specific, very well ordered and explained reason why they made their decision. Okay. And for SOTUS to start overruling very, very sound district court decisions doesn't bode well for SOTUS. Okay, because out of these 220 judges who are literally going ape shit on Miller and Trump and Noem and Bovino and all the clowns, all the Nazi clown show, some of those are Trump appointees. Some of those are Bush and Reagan appointees. Like the one that just wrote the 96-page decision was a conservative judge. 96 pages are you fucking kidding me? So I hope the tariff decision comes in big. I don't see Thomas ever voting for it. Alito may try to save his skin because it isn't just Trump that's going to get impeached if we have a massive switch over in Congress. A whole list of people are going to fall. And one of those people that are going to be gone is Clarence Thomas. You get enough independents backing up a move away from the rabid red MAGAism that's unfortunately taken this country and our society hostage, with helps of idiots like Mom for Liberty and the Federalist Society and right-wing podcasters on the SVR payroll. The SVR is just the new KGB. It's just a new acronym for what they've always had in Russia. But I do hope that it's going to be a massive changeover, and the court itself is going to recognize what's about to happen. Because a lot of decisions they're making, Congress could just go back and rewrite the statute, nailing this problem the court had, and reactivating the whole damn law. There's a couple of issues they passed that it just requires statutory fixes. It's not that the whole concept was thrown out. Okay. And I'm sure even though Roberts has turned out to be one of the biggest losers ever to be a chief justice, I think the guy's going to have some self-preservation instincts. I mean, at least Comey Barrett had some pang of consciousness in a couple of cases, including the tariff one. So I'm hope this ends up being a blowout. And if the judiciary kind of realigns itself to normality and sanity, and you mix that with what is now not just a rumor. I mean, Republicans in Congress are now talking to the press. It isn't just Marjorie Taylor Greene that's going to quit. Dan Bacon almost quit on the spot over the sellout Ukraine deal, which was basically just parroting Russian talking points to Zelensky. Witkoff was literally the lapdog carrying the little Russian message in his mouth to Ukraine. Okay. That pissed off capital C conservative Don Bacon so bad he almost quit on the spot. Okay. Well, when you get a bunch of people bailing out midterm, it shows you not just those people, but the party they belong to are incapable of leadership. Okay. Recent polling from last week, you've got districts in Florida that have shifted double digits. Florida's first 22, Florida's seventh 11 points. Okay. We have a whole realignment that's going on right now. Okay. It's going to be a political alignment, then it's going to be a social alignment and a cultural alignment. It always works that way. Okay. Because religious folks, oddly, this is against, the moral majority history since the 80s in this country. A lot of even conservative religious people don't think theocratic nationalism is the answer to shit. They don't like theocratic nationalism simply picking a new target, because your problem was gay men 20 minutes ago, because all the straight conservatives can't bear the thought of two gay men having sex. They all love the lesbian sex. The data from Pornhub shows that. America loves their lesbian porn. Okay. It's the two gay guys having sex, which most people have problems with. Okay. You have a problem with two gay people having sex. That doesn't give you, it doesn't give permission to get hostile against them. But what turned some of the theocrats away from the power base of Trumpianism was, now you're just picking on somebody else. Now it's trans people. Now it's transgenders. They're your mortal enemy. Why? Because there's gay men in the Trumpian orbit and in leadership in the Republican apparatus. So they know we can't shit on our own. So they purposely don't hire anybody who's transgender and go, oh, it wasn't the gay guys. It was the transgenders that need to be burned at the stake. Well, some of the theocrats aren't even buying it. They're going, I don't think that was in the book of Matthew. And it's not. Treat thy neighbor like treat the visitor like it is your friend and your neighbor. Okay, the big books don't say kill them all because we're giving you a permission to be a xenophobe. Okay, that works with some of the low information, low intelligence sectors of the voting public. Sure, that's how we all got here. But as they go more and more into their extremism, people are starting to put the puzzle pieces together. Okay. And even some religious people, like I watched this old Texas, very conservative Texas Baptist preacher just going off on Christian nationalism. I mean, seriously going off on Christian nationalism. It's like the answer to nothing, the fraud of everything. Okay. And even he said, some of the hot button topics. It doesn't say anywhere in our faith to do what you guys are espousing. And this is an old 75, 80-year-old Texas white preacher with silver hair. And he's going, knock it the hell off with the theocratic nationalism. It makes no sense. It gets us nowhere. It only divides us and it destroys the country. So I think we're at a turning point. I told you that the other day. The tunnel is long, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We can barely make it out, that little point of light at the end of the tunnel, but it's there. It's there. Now, they'll do anything to throw obstacles in our way, trying to get the hell out of Trumpianism. And you can see that. Like, everything is now heresy, everything is panic, everything. You can't take a measure. You have to take a ballistic, never seen before measure. Like, we had, very unfortunately, very sadly, a National Guard troop shot and killed. Okay. But again, that was 1/200 deaths yesterday. Now we're going to block all global immigration from everywhere except where white Norwegians live as the answer to gun violence. That makes as much sense as taking out the doors and the windows at the schools to stop school shootings. And I wrote this in my essay. What the fuck is a kid supposed to do? Phase in and out of the school through the walls like Jack from The Incredibles? Don't be that stupid. Stop selling guns to morons. I mean, I've been a gun owner for shit, 40, 50 years now? About 45 years, I guess. 40, 45. Teenager, I had my first gun, my little 22 Williams, old 1920s single shot, single feed 22. Always liked the sport of shooting. I like skeet shooting. My wife and I used to go skeet shooting in South County all the time. It was fun. I like from the military. I got really good at shooting. An expert on every weapon I picked up. Okay, doing tactical shooting or speed shooting like that. Yeah, it's fun. Okay, even though I like guns, I believe in gun ownership, and I like the sports associated with guns. I still say our gun policy is so fucking stupid. I don't know what to do. You literally buy a teenage kid or a young adult with mental problems a gun because you think an AR-15 is going to fix their psychological problems, and then you're surprised when they kill somebody. Or you have a kid with known mental health issues in the house, and you don't secure the weapons. So I think a whole bunch of things going to be changed. They're going to try to stop that change. But like I said, get some good data in your head, argue the good argument, fight the good fight, and we'll get the hell out of this tunnel, this dark tunnel. Um, my last note today, and I wrote the note a little harsher than I want to say it, but we all know the far right is a problem. Okay. No mystery there. Well, what people not on the right need to start understanding and admitting and coming to terms with is the far left is barely any better. Sometimes it's worse. Okay. I don't think Nazism is an answer to anything if you're on the right side of the spectrum. I literally do not think, especially after my own feet walked into the Deutsches Democratic Republic, East Germany, in the Cold War. Yeah, I was in East Germany. I saw it with my own two eyes. These feet walk communist soil. Communism is not an answer to your problems, especially when you look at the death toll. Mao killed more people than the Great Wars combined. Stalin killed more people than the Germans did in World War II. Okay. Once you get past either on the far right or the far left, you get past that window of reasonableness, which I talked about before, using the University of Pennsylvania XY political ideology graph, authoritarian to libertarian, liberal to conservative. Once you get too far out, liberal or conservative, and even authoritarian or libertarianism, because libertarianism, I know, can go too far. It can turn into anarchy, which doesn't make sense in the nuclear age. In a modern global economy, anarchy won't work. Stake a position that is based on some sound fundamentals. If you want to be that edgelord, the spiky, Milo or early Ben Shapiro, or what's the idiot on YouTube? Pew, that idiot. That's easy. All I have to say is bombastic statements and not back it up with anything. And tell you this utopia. Because this, what is, like, the guy that's working in the White House right now, he was appointed by Trump. He was the Tate brothers, Andrew Tate and his brother, the ones who were wanted for international sex trafficking. He was their lawyer. Okay. He's the guy, he got appointed after it became clear that he had a Nazi fetish from his social media points. And he believes Nazism is a utopia. Utopia for whom? The people in charge of the scheme. That's all. Okay. Don't ever align with a system that tells you the cabal is the one that benefits. That's why corporate socialism is bullshit. Corporate socialism doesn't work for the economy. It works for those people who get to make the decisions and focus the economy's profits on themselves, not taking their fair share. They want your share, his share, their share, everybody's share. And they want to divide it up as spoils, not as earnings. Okay. So stay away from the fringes, please. Okay. That's why I try to be a groovy libertarian, not a hardcore libertarian. Okay. Because you can go too far with libertarianism, just like you can go too far with authoritarianism. Okay. Hey, hippies, communist compounds of the 70s still don't work. Okay. And what's funny, when I was growing up in Massachusetts, all the anti-vax shit was from the far left commune hippies. Remember showing them up at the school meetings, talking exactly like Candace Owens or name a right-wing crank talks today. Robert Kennedy, Candace Owens, any of those guys. That's exactly what the hippies sounded like in the 70s. To the letter. To the inflection. That's why seeing it all come around, but on the totally opposite end side, I know what's going on. Okay? We were told in the 70s, tune out, drop out, live in a commune, not give a shit about anything. Okay? And apparently, also not mowing your lawn or picking up the trash. Yeah, we had a hippie commune on my street growing up. It was very close to my house. It was really weird. I'm all for the marijuana smoking and the copious amounts of sex, but a lot of the other living conditions, no. So we know authoritarianism is bad. If you take libertarianism too far, you end up with anarchy, and anarchy doesn't work. Not in a modern society. Okay? There's a place that has anarchy. It's had it since the early 90s. It's called Somalia. How's it working there? Okay? Too much conservative, you end up in Nazism. Go too far, way past progressivism, you pass liberalism, you go to progressivism, you keep driving till the sun doesn't exist anymore. Then you're at communism. Okay? Well, communist regimes don't really have a good track record. In fact, they have a murderous track record. Okay? You don't have to be that 0-0 on the XY graph centrist. I'm not. You don't have to be. I mean, I'm pretty close to zero when it comes to liberal to a conservative, because I don't take the issues as a plank. I take each issue for what it is. And sometimes I will take a very conservative issue and a very non-conservative issue on the same topic, like military spending. Okay. Do we need a professional military that's well trained and well educated? Absolutely yes. Should we have a family-based senior NCO, senior warrant officer, and senior commissioned officer support system in the military so you can have family serving? Also, yes, my wife's a military brat. Okay. All our friends are military brats. Okay. We should have a stable military community based on families. Yes, absolutely. Should we have invaded Iraq? No. Should we invade Venezuela? Absolutely not. Should we use military on the streets in America? Absolutely not. Not unless there's a total exigent circumstance that the locals cannot control. I didn't disagree with Reagan moving an 82nd Airborne into Los Angeles, but 2 points of order. One, it was only Los Angeles because it was the center of everything. Everybody else was just copycatting. Okay. And two, the locals literally couldn't get control. The sheriff admitted that. That's why the 82nd Airborne went in. And out of the respect, fortunately, the respect for the military, the violence stopped almost immediately when they landed. Okay. But that was a one-off exigent circumstance. That's not daily life in America, and it never should be. Okay. So be able to look at a topic and not just sing the party line of whatever quadrant you're in. Okay. And realize some weird oddities exist in that XY spectrum. Okay. There's not many left, but there used to be a strong contingent of liberal Republicans. My buddy Jeff was one of the last living capital L liberal Republicans. Okay. There are conservative Democrats. There are conservative libertarians, and there are middle of the road libertarians, groovy libertarians, and there are far left socialist libertarians, which, okay, I have to think about that one, but okay. I think socialism kind of rips out the individualism, but I know like Noam Chomsky has said that. A bunch of other people have said that, and I've tried to listen and try to understand. I guess my advice to everybody is know where you stand on the chessboard. Okay. And make sure you have a personal spot that you know where your ethics, morals, your political ideology, your desired outcomes all come from a well-informed personal point of view. If you're just going to follow the herd, you're cattle. You're not an informed voter. I don't care where you are on the map or on the graph. You're just lost. Okay. Like I can take most issues and split them down. And even though I can get really hardcore, either conservative or libertarian on things, I can speak at a party and some people go, "Oh, I can't believe how liberal that guy is." Like people that when I worked with a big tech company, I was one of the oldest guys in the company. I'm old, I know, and I wanted to go work for a big company, so I got a job in my late 50s, working for a big tech company, and everybody around me is my kid's age, and we're upstairs on the 7th floor having a beer. We had a beer tap and a bar up there. We could go hang out in the afternoon. And so I'm finishing up some data coding and data structuring for a demo, and I'm having a beer, and Deep comes, so he's got vodka, so I have a vodka too. And we're having a roundtable discussion because it's something's coming up, like gay prides in the city, or could have been the Dyke March, something. It's one of the queer events were coming up. And I just said, hey, I've never had a problem. I mean, when you're in high school, you kind of, we were dumb in the 70s. We used bad words, I guess. And, but I never in my life held any ill will toward queer folks. I'm not a saint. I said politically correct in jokes, even said them to my gay friends. They laughed. um, the take like what we could split down, like education. Like, can you ban gay men from being teachers? No. I don't even think a parochial school should be allowed to do that. Okay. Because all I get out of that is like this Woolworth counter feel. Oh, only the white people can eat at the counter. Only straight people can teach. That doesn't seem right. But at the same time with education, like I am, because like even though we homeschooled our kids and all our kids have graduate degrees, master's degrees, um, we follow the state curriculum. Okay. And I'm all about the state standards. I really am. Now, what's nice about being homeschooled, you can go well beyond those standards in any vector you want. And we did. We went so far into music. My son ended up with a graduate degree in music from one of the best conservatories in the country, if not the world. Um, if you tell me whether you're right or left or whatever, your Kirk Screen girlfriend. Oh, thank you, Terry, for the new subscribe. Um, I, I don't want people injecting bullshit into the educational standards. Okay. Um, I was taught in high school in Massachusetts in the 70s about the Tulsa massacre and civil rights and all that stuff. That should be taught today. That's American history. That's just facts in history. I'm sorry if it upsets you, but that's just facts in history. But yes, I will argue against a theocratic nationalist who doesn't want to show slavery as a bad thing. But I'll also argue against the leftist who wants to say that slavery is still the economy today. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. So what I'm saying, don't get stuck in a political black hole. Why? Because you don't know how you got there. Okay. I am super, super, super pro immigration. Unless you commit a felony, then I'm going to wave bye-bye to your dumb ass. Out the door you go. Okay. I got pissed when those Mexican guys who fought for our Marines in Iraq, they're U.S. Marine combat veterans. Okay. They got a DUI in San Diego and they get deported back to Mexico. That's horseshit. That's so wrong. Okay. Now, you pull a gun at somebody and start shooting, back to Mexico you go. But not on a minor offense, especially not with a combat veteran. No. Okay. So, no, I guess what I'm saying is know the specificity, know the backgrounds, and know the outcomes that you want on whatever the topic is. And just don't fawn. I'll tell you, I made that mistake years ago. Don't fawn over a particular politician. Okay. Yeah, I got wrapped up a while ago with Ron Paul. Okay. Then I went, oops, not good. Especially when he drug the Roe v. Wade chick out when he was running for president. I'm like, you the whole time telling us that you're the hardest core libertarian we've ever seen, and then you go theocratic nationalist by taking the abortion issue as your issue on stage? Wrong answer. Oh, and I mean, sometimes Rand is very right. His son, Rand Paul, is very right about things in the Senate. I just don't like the guy. Okay. So I don't subscribe to personas. I don't subscribe to personalities anymore. I study the issue at hand. I don't give a shit what the Democratic slate is. I don't give a shit what the Republican slate is because most of the time it's bullshit. It's hand waving gestures. Like Republicans can't be any more Federalist. They have a whole group called the Federalist Society. But you don't agree with states legalizing things you don't like prostitution, high concentration ethanol, cannabis, psilocybin. Okay. I don't have any problem with marijuana being legal. I think it would be cool if they legalized psilocybin mushrooms. We almost did in California. I was like, totally for it. But of course, Newsom's running for president. Okay. So he ain't going to do that because he knows Fox News and OAN and everything else is going to tear him a new one for being a drug addict, selling the demise of the country. I'm sorry. Psilocybin, there's one effect after you take psilocybin. You're closer to the people around you and you're closer to whatever we live in as reality. Okay. You want people to be less Nazi? Like, if you'd have gave me 2 weeks with Charlie Kirk and a big Ziploc bag of mushrooms, I could have stopped him from being an asshole. I'm serious. Psilocybin changes the way you see the universe and the reality around you for the better. And you're also feel so good mentally for weeks. Okay. You guys put sports betting on young men's phone, turning them into gambling addicts and ruining their fucking credit scores. I don't like the fact you put gambling on the phones. I think that's a billion times worse than psilocybin or weed. I would love to allow police. I know Canada, some departments you get to smoke weed if you work in law enforcement. The only problem is the donut problem. And fuck you, accountants. You love donuts too, so get off our backs. Yeah. Munchies and donuts, that'd be dangerous. No, like I try to do munchies with like cashews and watermelon and fruit and blueberries and stuff I love. So I don't munch down on donuts because donuts are good to begin with. Now you add munchies? Oh my God. Yeah, that's the only hurdle there. And I think it would make some of the cops calm down because they're amped up this generation far worse than we were. And we had a reason to be nervous. Like assaults with firearms against uniformed peace officers was double back then what it is today. Hell, they used to come after us off duty. Happened to a sergeant and wife driving down the highway. We found out who eventually did it, and yeah, he had a personal beef. So yeah, know where you are on the chessboard. That's where I'm going to leave it at today. I know we're all busy. Life is hard. Trumpianism is making it harder. You have family responsibilities. If you can't be a professional wonk, at least be a wonk on one or two good items that are close to you and close to your family. Okay. Like, I'll leave you with this about, knowing where you are on the chessboard. Do I personally believe that abortion should be legal? Yes. Should it be legal? Absolutely yes. Am I quote unquote pro abortion? Not really. I'm a father of three. I'd rather have the baby. Okay. But I can't make personal decision and medical decision for people not in my family. Okay. Now that my daughter's grown up, I only have input with one woman in the world, and that's my wife of almost 40 years. Okay. Yeah. You can hold two thoughts in your fucking head at the same time and still be very intelligent. Okay. I said this in my live video the other day about my neighbor. He's not even that religious. He's a psychiatrist by training. He's pretty high-end professional with a really great career. Not very religious at all. Okay. 1000% against abortion. So much so when his niece got pregnant, they told her, do not get an abortion. We will adopt the baby. He walked the walk. So I gotta give him a hand. You did it, dude. Okay. Even though I go, abortion may not be for me and my family, but there may be cases where it's necessary. Because if you tell me to choose between my wife and an ectopic pregnancy, I'm choosing my wife, or I'm choosing my daughter or my sister. Okay. And I'm not making any moral judgments. Okay. I don't like the fact that people who don't like abortion sit there and go, well, you shouldn't be using abortion as contraceptives. Even contraceptives that are very, very, very effective still have a small error rate, a failure rate, and it can happen anyways. Okay. And again, these are personal, private medical decisions. They're not mine to make. Okay. So know where you are. Know deep where you are on a subject. Even if it's just one or two topics, know them well. Know why you stand there. Okay. Now you can agree with a politician. Let's say you're a real big fan of AOC. Okay. Just don't be a fanboy or a fangirl of her and attach to her ideas without you having the underpinnings, the fundamentals of the issue well in hand for yourself. Okay. I'm actually, AOC is growing on me because she's actually one of the politicians in Washington that's moving back toward the center. The middle lines in both the X and the Y axis. She's moving actually toward the negotiable spot. Yeah. Unlike Elizabeth Warren, who keeps going more and more up as a left-wing authoritarian. Um, and then there's strange ones that people follow as a liberal, and they never were liberal. Like Hillary Clinton. She's not a liberal. I know she sells herself every time she wants to run for office as a liberal. She's not a liberal. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Don't you can appreciate, you can be a fan, but just don't take it too far. Just because a politician or celebrity or talking head or pundit or God forbid a podcaster um, says it as a plank. I mean, that's the big dummism of like the Joe Rogan era. Joe Rogan said it. Joe Rogan is of average intelligence with no specific domain knowledge outside of physical conditioning and throwing a great back kick. And I saw his gym kicks. He's pretty good at that. I'd take a back kick lesson from him for sure. Would I listen to him about virtually anything else? Any statute we're considering? No, no, no. So just don't fan over somebody and go, well, because I'm a fan of theirs, I'll take their position as my position, and I'll just eat it whole. That's not the way you should be approaching these things. They're too complex. Some of these issues are too effectual to not know the details of the issue. Like abortion is part of the healthcare debate. Okay, pick one, pick both as your voting issue. Okay, you can unpack a lot in both of those areas, and then you can also find out how they're related. Like how these policy suggestions, even some of the crazy ones, you can see how they're related. Like they want to take away the professional designation from all nursing and PAs and NPs. Okay, they're deconstructing healthcare as health reform. They are going to mass destroy the system and the institution of healthcare in this country as their reform. That's their answer to Obamacare. You're not going to get any healthcare. And not only are you not going to get any healthcare, we're going to dismantle the healthcare system. It will not be a system available for the general populace. It will be a system only assigned to the wealthiest people and wealthiest families in our society, and maybe a few corporate employees. Because I really do think, especially when you start putting different Lego blocks together, like the de-professional certifications they're talking about, this is what I've been talking about for years. They're deconstructing. They're no longer interested in building up America. They're simply willing to tear everything down, either burn the pieces or cash out the pieces and put the money in their pocket. Okay. So just running down a bunch of issues and saying, I'm pro this, I'm anti that, I'm pro that, I'm whatever this, that's not a real reasonable place you can be anymore. You got to get in the weeds a little bit. Okay. That's why I said go read the immigration stuff from somebody you may not usually read. Okay. But you can't help when you're reading something from a non-normal source and then you realize they're fucking right. And maybe the guy I've been following isn't telling me the whole picture. Or maybe they're just flat out wrong. because that's the one thing I learned about reading the Cato immigration report. Oh, we just need the Democrats. Oh, we just need a little reform. Bullshit. Bullshit. We need to really sit down and figure out what the 21st century immigration policy for America is going to be and how to unscrew up the system that you just mangled. Okay? It isn't just being pro or anti-immigration. That doesn't even make sense anymore. Okay? And if you're anti-immigration with the only excuse you're a xenophobe, then you're just a fucking idiot. Okay? Know your place on the chessboard, understand your place on the chessboard, understand your next move and outcome. You don't have to know it over 300 issues, but before you get into the next voting booth in the midterms and the upcoming presidential and maybe some local elections here in the future, I'm not saying everybody here is uninformed, but I'm saying we all need to be more informed than we are now. And each one of us need to work on it. One of the responsibility of civics to the voter is to be an informed voter. And I think that's what led to Trumpianism was we had so many people who were the opposite of informed. It was easy to get the Goomba and the street gang up and running as a political system. Okay. So with that thought, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving weekend. I hope you had a great Turkey Day. Um, enjoy yourself. Enjoy the weekend. Um, think forward to the next things we have to do. And until next time, think about it.